had a nice pause, or normally I would say lunch, but that doesn't apply here. This talk is about leveling up vRealize with Puppet. There's a T there, but there's some stuff going on with the VGA cable. Forget about it. This is us. That's Dennis, my colleague. He's Russian. That's why we speak English.
Yeah, my name is Denis Trusov, and I'm working at ITQ as automation consultant. And my main focus is actually vRA, vRO, and vCloud Director.
Right, and my name is Martin Carols. I self-identify as a DevOps engineer, and I do stuff with code. So you want infrastructure as code. We talked a lot about this today. It should be easy, right? Right?
Yeah. Actually, we will go through different like customer requests, and we will go starting from simple blueprint and making it more complex and complex using Puppet in vRA environment.
This is going to be a little different than the presentations we had before. We don't really talk a lot about the concepts. We're actually going to dive right in and actually build most of this stuff. There's a disclaimer. The demos are pre-recorded because the demo gods are an untrustworthy bunch.
Yeah, it's 80% demos, so
the demos are fast, so don't worry if you're not able to keep up with the typing. I'm not actually that fast. It's a lot of video editing. Slides and code will be made available after the presentation. And this one's pretty important.
Yeah, just keep in mind that everything was built in lab environment, so you just don't pick it up and put it in enterprise.
Please
it should be carefully planned and designed.
It does work in the real world once.
And it's recorded already.
All right, so here we go.
Yeah, so actually one of the common requests from the customers is that they need to automate a simple machine deployment, because in legacy IT it takes really long time between the request and actual delivery of the VM, because it goes through different infrastructure teams, through the networking team, storage, VMware team, back to networking, and someone is on sick leave, so it's like 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it can be actually achieved by installing vRealize automation and vRealize orchestrator embedded in there. Just reuse the template which you use for machine deployment and create a blueprint within vRA designer.
We're not going to bore you with how you do all this stuff, because most of you already know how to do it. We're just going to show you what it looks like. Look, this is way easier. I don't have to type or anything.
Yeah, so we go to catalog items. Here we have a blueprint already created. So description reasons. Within the vCenter, we can actually see that the clone process started. Customization spec applied. Yeah. We have super environment demo. Yeah, in the end machine already in the items. So it's server of 5 with exact IP address. And we just SSH to it to prove that it is this VM and it's customized.
Look, we're not lying.
Same host name, yeah. And
it's got
internet facing, yes, so it's good.
Which is important, right, to do most of the other stuff. So it works. That was fast. Okay, so what happened?
Yeah, so user actually request catalog item, vRA request to clone the template from vSphere. vSphere informs vRA that clone, customization, and everything is done. And vRA tells users that he can actually use the VM right now.
It's not really true, is it? I mean, you have to refresh your status.
Yeah.
But okay, so now we get to the more complicated stuff.
And at some point, actually, customers find out that the simple standard configuration is varies on different servers. And we need some tool actually to apply some simple configuration like DNS, NTP, well, something else on already existing servers, and same time on the newly deployed servers. And for it, we can use
Puppet. Right, sorry about that. Install and configure the Puppet server. We heard about Ansible before. We use Puppet, but you know, potato. It's whatever works for you. Install the Puppet agent on the virtual machines during deployment. That's the interesting bit. And write a basic Puppet manifest that reflects the company policy. Like, what do you want installed? Do you want some hardening or whatever? So, installing the Puppet server. First, we need a virtual machine. So I'm lazy. I'm going to use the one I just deployed. Rename the server, set up a DNS record, and we install a Puppet server. I'm using Foreman, which is just, ready, an open source package, which gives you all the features of Puppet Enterprise without the hassle. So here we go. I'm actually going to log into that server, See how fast I can type? It's amazing. I'm changing the host name. Done. All right, see, so now it's called puppet.lab.karels.com. That's my last name, that's my home lab. Pinging, so that resolves, it's pretty good. I set up a DNS record earlier. I'm gonna go to vCenter and rename the machine there because, you know, I don't wanna make mistakes and accidentally delete it. All right, so that's done. I'm going to go to the website, the format. I'm actually going to show you what I do. Like, we're not that smart, you know. I have to Google most of this stuff, even after I've done it like a million times, and just copy and paste the commands, because we're all pretending like we're geniuses here, but come on, we all do this stuff, right?
That's the way how we work.
See, and I'm adding the EPEL packages, so these are all the repositories that we need. And that's done, and now I go back to the web page and I'm like, okay, I'm going to download, I'm going to install the installer, which is fun to say, installing the installer, right? And I'm going to actually, look, it's installed, the installer is installed. I'm just trying to see how many times I can put the word install in one sentence. Yeah. And there we go, it's installing it. Again, my home lab is not this fast, I am cheating with video editing. But still, it looks cool, right? And done.
Failure.
All right. No, that's the cool bit about pre-recording. It never fails. So I actually go to the URL. It's up there, and there's the Foreman server. And this is just proving that it's there. I'm actually not going to use the web interface, but I just want to show that it's there. So I'm logging into the server. I am creating a site.pp. That was really fast, and I'm just going to put a notify in there that says, hello, vMA Techcon, which is us, right? And the Puppet server has a Puppet agent installed itself, so that's really cool because that way you can test if it works. Doing the Puppet agent -test, and look, it says, hello, vMA Techcon, so that works. So now we have client request number 2. We actually can deploy servers. Well, no, wait.
Yeah, we still need to deploy the agent, but
yes.
the agent on the deployed machine. So actually, in here, we will move from simple blueprint deployment. We will go to Vero workflow, which will request the machine catalog item from the VRA.
Yep.
And afterwards, based on event broker subscriptions, we will run the workflow, which will run the SSH commands to deploy the Puppet agent, and same time to run it first time. So actually it will generate the certificate and everything else.
Yep.
And later on, after workflows are created, we will just create an anything as a service blueprint and deploy these machines through this anything as a service blueprint.
Yep. That's
Approve the certificate and
obviously
check if everything works. So demo again.
Yep. Here we go.
Yeah. So actually in here we
Vero.
Yeah, it's Vero. Actually we here import the package for event broker subscriptions. It's, well, not necessary, but we use it.
You can do this yourself, obviously, but you know this is just easy. That way you have pre-made events from VRA.
Yes, and here we just configure it, just run the workflow, and everything is configured on VRA host, running this workflow.
I always browse to the one that gives me catalog items. That way I know I've got the right one.
Yeah.
All right. So.
Yeah, so we include all properties.
I don't know why I clicked there. So now we're
Yeah,
installing.
just to show that we could not
All right.
include them. This
That
workflow we will actually clone and call it machine build. Actually, it will be based on the machine provisioned live state.
Yeah, so that workflow will be triggered once the machine hits the machine provisioned state, which is easy. Because that way we don't have to do anything in VRA.
Yeah,
I'm installing
property groups.
Yep, there you go. Installing the custom property group,
Yeah, based
Custom
on this
property.
custom property.
EBS machine provisioned. Again, for all you VRA geeks out there that know everything about this, it's just events, subscriptions. It's nothing too complicated, but this just makes it nice and easy. And there we go. Every time this blueprint will now be deployed, it will trigger that workflow.
Now we import actual request of OS and workflow and a workflow for deploying Puppet agent.
Right. So master
Sent,
sent us.
Here we choose the catalog item, which will be used for the exact deployment.
So we got a
It will be previous blueprint.
That's
completed
right.
Blueprint.
So we got a VRO workflow that actually requests a machine blueprint from VRA, which is a little contrived, but it starts to make sense in a bit. All right, there's the machine build again.
Yeah, in here we will drag the workflow which will install the Puppet agent. We need to fix here the visual bindings.
Yeah. So we got the
It's
virtual
super-
machine properties, put
yeah.
it in there. That's what we use to get the IP address and all that stuff and actually SSH into the server so we can do all the nifty Linux commands and install the agent. See, IP addresses, virtual machine get, virtual machine properties, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
IP.
and actually here you can see the list of commands which installs and activates the Puppet agent. They're put in an array, and later on it just executed one by one.
Just start the Puppet service. That's all that does.
The most important part.
Yep. So, now
Yeah, we go and create anything as a service blueprint. In here we just choose the workflow master center as deployment.
there we go. Yeah, well. I like to prepend my anything as a service blueprints with XAS because that way I know what I'm talking about. Because when I'm logged in, I can see everything, obviously, because I'm admin. But I think it's better to provide your users with anything as a service blueprints because that way you can do whatever you like within the designer. Gives you a lot more options, I feel. But of course, everyone's free to do it their own way. And there we go. Publish, do all that VRA stuff that we need to do to
Catalog
actually,
magic,
yeah, get it
So
to the end user. Oh, here comes the really important bit.
the most important.
Absolutely, give it
Icons.
a pretty icon. That's important. Otherwise, people are going to be like, "What is this stuff? You want me to read words? Come on!" And there we go. And we go to anything as a service, and there it is. And I request. Starts to deploy. Should trigger the workflow in VRO.
Yeah. It triggers the VRO workflow.
There we go.
VRO workflow requests the catalog item, so we are waiting it for deployment.
I'm gonna. We
It's
got a little
the same
workflow thing.
process, actually, cloning, customizing,
Yeah.
and
See how fast it is again.
yeah.
Never gets old. I wish.
Event broker subscription triggered.
Yep.
So we run all these commands.
There we go. So there's server number 2. Just deployed.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
see it request completed or almost completed.
Boom, successful.
Yeah.
See, right up there. Machines, server 2. I want an IP address, probably, I think. Come on, buddy.
We connect to Puppet server now.
Oh yeah, good, yeah, because the Puppet agent ran, and look, there is the certificate. So the agent has run, the server has contacted the Puppet server and went like, hey, here's my certificate, could you please sign it for me? We did a Puppet cert list on the Puppet server, it saw that certificate, we're like, yeah, we know you, we trust you, we're going to sign your certificate, and now the Puppet node is actually attached to the Puppet master. Can we still say that? Puppet server.
Yeah.
And we're
We
going to
just
do a
run
little
the
test.
agent.
I'm going to go sudo to root, Puppet agent run. And there we go. Once again, hello vMA Techcon. So that worked. We just deployed a machine that automatically got the Puppet agent and signed up to the Puppet server. So what happened?
Yes, actually, a user request catalog item again, but this time vRealize automation triggers VRO workflow, which requests the catalog item from VRA, and VRA deploys requests vSphere to clone the VM.
Yeah.
Then vSphere notifies VRA
Actually,
about the deployment.
In the meantime, there's the whole lifecycle thing happening, obviously,
Yeah.
but we're just going to say that in between this bit, we installed the whole Puppet agent. That's how, yeah.
In here, vRealize tells VRO that a machine is built, and And
Yep.
actually, the Vero workflow to install Puppet Agent runs on the remote machine through the SSH.
Yep.
Then Puppet Agent generates certificates and signs it. Everything notified to the user back, and then user or admin have to log into Puppet server and approve this certificate.
And then the Puppet manifest gets applied to the Puppet node. Now I know what you're all thinking. That automatically signing off that certificate is bogus. We don't want to do that, right? We want to automate that stuff.
So that's the third request. I don't want to manually sign Puppet certificate requests. So that makes sense. This sounds a little easy, but it's actually kind of complicated. We're going to deploy our Puppet agent with a file called the CSR attributes.yaml file, which is a YAML file which gets triggered, gets read as soon as the certificate signing request is started on the Puppet agent. And we're going to set up auto signing on the Puppet server. What we're going to do is we're going to put a secret password in the certificate that we create at the first Puppet agent run, and that secret password, Puppet master knows about that one. It's going to go like, does the password match? Yeah, it matches. Okay, I trust you. I'm going to sign in. So, first things first, modify the VRO workflow.
Yeah, actually, we have to go to the event subscription workflow. And here we shall...
Right, those are all the commands, right?
yeah, we
So
shall add one more command.
Exactly. So before we run it, but after we install it, we're going to like create a little file, the CSR.attributes. You know, I like to put comments in my code because, you know, I usually come back after a couple of months and like, what am I doing here? I don't. So that's why I put stuff like that in there. Here's, I'm just gonna copy paste that. See, it's a simple SSH command. It creates a YAML file, puts that stuff in there. That number right there is actually, it's like DHCP. There's a whole bunch of attributes you can actually put in an open SSL certificate. It's fun to play with. And what we're putting in there is the ultra secret password. Secret password. Nobody will ever crack that, right? So that's done, right? Yeah. So now we need to set up auto signing on the Puppet server. I copied this straight from Puppet Enterprise website. I don't need you to read this or anything, but I just wanted to, you know, give you an idea. Basically, what it boils down to is it can be anything, any programming language you want or executable you want. It's just going to be triggered as soon as a Puppet node signs up. It's going to execute this script or executable, feed it the certificate through piping, you know, and then go like, okay, if you exit cleanly, if you exit with a 0 code, I'm gonna be okay with it. I'm gonna sign it. So I'm gonna log into the Puppet server, go to root, obviously, etc, Puppet Labs, go to the Puppet folder, and there you've got Puppet conf. So, no, wait, first I'm going to create the script. So this is a bit of Ruby. Basically all it does is like, hey, valid pass is secret password. I'm going to open up that file you feed me, which is the certificate, and if the secret password matches what I think it should match, I'm going to exit cleanly, and that tells Puppet Master to go like, okay, we trust this guy, sign his certificate, it's fine. See, and otherwise exit 1, because 1 is not 0, 1 is bad, 0 is good. All right, so it's executable. We need to tell puppet.conf, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there we go. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in there, but autosign, it usually uses autosign.conf. I'm like, nope, use the Ruby file. That's what you need. And as soon as that works, am I done here? Yeah, I think I'm done here. All right, so we're going to test it. Deploy a new VM, check the Puppet server for the certificate, and check the VM if the Puppet agent runs, without us actually having to log into the Puppet server and go like, okay, I trust this guy. I want you to like sign a certificate. I guess you could also use the API from the Puppet Master, right? If you wanted that through VRO, go like, hey, I want you to connect to this Puppet server and sign that certificate. Anything is possible. This is just the way that we chose to do it. Deploying a machine. There we go. See? Signed. The little plus right next to it is the sign that tells us that it's signed. Logging into the server, doing a Puppet agent run. Magic. Hello, vMA Techcon. So that worked. All right.
Yes, so another request from the customer will be, okay, we are having Puppet in our infrastructure, but we have already more than one developer, and we don't want them to SSH to the same machine and just to modify the same files.
You don't want to have a bunch of guys all SSHing into your Puppet master and working in that manifest file.
Yes, so we need some distributed code versioning system.
Right. So Git, right? Create a Git repository and install and configure R10K on the Puppet server, which will run with a cron job and automatically gets that code.
First thing first, we're going to install GitLab server. Ronald already talked about this, which is cool, and we're actually going to show you how we did it. So that server I deployed earlier, again, just recycle, you know, because it's good for nature.
GitLab.lab.
We're changing the name here. Going to go back to vCenter in a bit. Change it right there. Like, okay, you're GitLab now. Actually, you know, once you get beyond this level, you actually start deploying your infrastructure through your infrastructure, which is really meta. It's really cool. Here, see, again, I go to the website, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Tell me what to do. Copying all the commands. This is the same as before, just adding a bunch of repositories.
Just copy paste.
Installing some prerequisites. It's adding firewall D commands, right? Postfix, because we want to be able to send email. That's important. We're going to curl a script from the internet and run it through bash using sudo, which is always a great idea. Right? Just do that. Don't ever check what's in there. Just straight up sudo that through bash. What's the worst that could happen? There we go. See, this time I actually wisened up. I was like, hey, I don't need sudo. I think I'm doing stuff down there right now, but it's kind of cutting off. So just imagine that I'm pasting it down there. Yeah, see, there we go. Installing GitLab Enterprise Edition. Look,
Yeah,
this takes way longer. All right, so that's installed. Yeah.
Now we're actually logging there.
Okay, so now we have to install and configure R10K, which is the bit that actually connects to, wait, did I just cut off the bit where I created repository?
Yeah, but
Yeah, I think I
it was
did.
quite a small bit, so.
Yeah, well, forget it. Let's just, we're not gonna do that again. So I also create a repository and I install R10K. Basically what it does is you connect it through your Git repo and tell it like, hey, pull that stuff down every couple of minutes. So here is the repo I made on my GitLab server. It has a site.pp in there, which is really simple. It says, hey, hello, vMA Techcon. And there we go. Go to R10K. This is really cool. They don't actually have a website. They just have a Git repo on GitHub. So you know that it's, you know, they know what they're talking about. But still, the copying and the pasting. Installing R10K, it's Ruby. Go to Quick Start. I always look for the Quick Start. It's like, what do we do? Oh yeah, so I need to make that file right there. Well, that directory, then go in there. It's empty. Create a file called r10k.yaml. Okay, I can do that.
Copy paste.
I'm using Vim, obviously, because it's the only true editor. Anyone who says otherwise is wrong. All right, so, and now we add the Git URI for the project right there and put it in the remote. I'm cheating a little, obviously, because you understand that I've added the Puppet Master server with the RSA certificate on the GitLab server so that it has the rights to pull and push. But you knew that, right? So I'm creating a cron job. Simple. I'm using a file lock to make sure that I only have one of them running, and all it does is R10K deploy environment. That's all. That's all I'm doing. All that output, I don't need that. Just put that in dev nil. I don't care about that. Okay, so I'm going to go into environment production. I have a site.pp. I'm just going to watch it, just a little. I'm going to edit the README file. Oh, no, the site.pp file, excuse me. I change hello vMA Techcon to this should update automatically through R10K. Push that code to the Git repo. Update site.pp. Yep, there you go. Git push. I'm going to go back to the Puppet master. R10K runs every couple of times, and presto. See, R10K did that. So now we can have a bunch of developers working on Puppet code all at the same time, committing code to the repository. Whoa. Could be like 10 commits a minute, nobody cares, 10 pushes, and it will automatically get updated. All right. Yep.
No.
Workflow, what happened? So now we have a bunch of developers down there who push code to the GitLab server, right? Writing code, and R10K is pulling from the GitLab server to the Puppet server, which is a VM on vCenter. That's what's happening right now. Next one.
Yes, so the next request would be, can we actually define the different roles of the servers? So actually it will be
Like a database, web server, or whatever else enterprise need.
Right. That makes sense, right? Because right now all we have is a site.pp, which is fun if we want like 1 million of the same servers, but I have this hunch that you might want, a couple of different flavors. So what we need to do is create roles in the Git repository, modify the CSR.attributes.yaml file to include that role, and this is the fun bit, create an external node classifier, which again is a script or an executable that gets triggered on the Puppet server with the name of the node, and then it should give us back some YAML. That's all it does. You can write your own, or you can take someone else's, doesn't matter. Last but not least, modify the VRO workflow and the catalog item so we can choose a role. Here we go. Create roles in the Git repository. There's an example on Puppet docs, which we're going to use. Create directories, role, and profile in the site. I'm not going to bore you with all of this. I'm just going to, show it to you. Oh, last bit. As a test role, I just copied the Jenkins example. Once again, straight from Puppet docs, copy pasting. Nothing too fancy or interesting. So here it is. It's like, hey, I just Googled that. Like, how do I make a role? This is how you make a role. So I just go there, make their site. See, I'm not that smart. I'm just copying all that stuff. It's just a matter of reading the documents, right? Here it is. Oh, I want you to include site and the modules in the base module path. All right, sure, not a problem. Make it here called role. Make it here called profile. They're there. See, and I'm doing all of this in the Git repository. So I'm not doing anything on the Puppet server. I'm not even touching it. I'm doing this in the Git repository that I have on my laptop locally. And once it's done, I'm just going to push it up. And then that code gets pulled by R10K. And all of a sudden, it understands what a role is. And it understands what a profile is. Just like that. Here's a profile. I did not write this. This is a Jenkins profile, which is convenient because we're going to be using it later. Go back a bunch, go in the role. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but you've got profiles and you've got roles. Roles is basically what are you? Web server, database server, all that stuff. And then your profile is stuff like, okay, I have a base profile, I have a security profile, I have an Nginx profile or an Apache profile. And in my role, I say include all of this stuff, which are the parts, the moving parts that make up a web server. Push it. Gets pushed up there. Oh yeah, need a Puppet file, because extra Puppet modules you declare in your Puppet file, and then what R10K does, a little extra feature, so it looks at that, and then it installs it. It's like Puppet module install, but R10K does that for you, which is really convenient. All right. I'm logging into the Puppet server to show you what's going on. In production, as you can see, actually changed. I've got Java, I've got Jenkins in there. R10K did that for us. It's really simple. Is it going to zoom out again? I'm not sure. I think that should be it, right? Yeah. All right, so now we have roles.
Yeah, now actually we have to modify the VRO workflow to add a role to file and to make it visible, to make a choice visible for the end user.
Exactly.
So it will be an input in anything as a service. So in here we have to...
This is fast, right?
To copy paste
Yeah.
the SSH command, which we prepared previously.
See, this
which
is,
will include Puppet role in here.
we're just adding that to that file we already had. See,
Yeah.
it's just adding a couple of lines.
Then we have to add it as an input to the master deployment, so we will be able to see it in anything as a service catalog item for the end user.
Yeah.
Well, we call it Puppet role as well.
Because the user has to request the deployment and be able to choose.
Yeah, fix the visual bindings, so everything is passed through. So the main idea is actually to get the input from the user passed straight away to the CSR. Yeah, here.
What we're doing is we're creating a custom property to actually stick that property on the VM as it gets deployed, so we can pick it up later when we're doing like the lifecycle workflows.
Yeah. And here we will create a scriptable task for get role.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I mentioned before, it's, yeah, I think it's in here. The main idea is to pass the Puppet role input from the customer to the certificate request, because role will be just a part of the request.
Right.
One of the parameters, like.
See,
this.
get role. We're actually saying, hey, role is virtual machine get puppet.role, because that's now
It's
a
a custom
property.
property, yeah, from
Exactly.
the VM.
And we are sticking that. And we're creating a custom attribute where we can put the role in, so we can pass it on along the line to the other scripts or workflows or what have you. See, so virtual machine properties go in, Puppet role comes out. That's basically all that little script does.
And here we create an input
Then we
also.
need to stick that into the Puppet agent install workflow. There we go, Puppet role. And here with the script,
Yeah, it's
there,
pink.
see, we put that in earlier and it turned from black to pink.
So it's
I just made,
variable.
we made that happen. We turned it from black to pink. That was good. Synchronized parameters.
That's all the name, same name.
This was the
parameter.
coolest thing. It automatically picked that up because the name was the same. See, I didn't trust it because I still did it, but I didn't have to. All right. So that was VRO, right?
Yeah, and now we will request, we need to modify the XAS blueprint.
Obviously.
So it will be input for, required input from the user.
Yes.
In this case, just to keep it short, we left it as an input string.
Yes.
But you can make it as a drop-down menu with predefined values or whatever is the most beautiful you think.
Exactly.
Yeah, requested for is not required. to
A
be seen
customer
by
of
the
mine,
user.
I actually have an action that does a call to the API at GitLab. Like, hey, give me all your roles and stuff. And then it puts that right in there. So you can see all the different roles, which is way better. All right.
So in here now we have an input from the user, and
Puppet
it will
roll.
be Jenkins.
So,
Jenkins.
no, I think I'm done here.
Oh,
All right.
probably later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we need the external node classifier. That's actually the bit that gets the Puppet node as a name, looks at the certificate, and then it returns a bunch of YAML, which defines the class, which is the role. All right. So,
Yeah,
see,
here
put that on execute, and then up there we've got a little Python script, and what that does is it returns a bunch of YAML, and I'm not going to bore you with this, but it opens up the file, returns a YAML, and then when that works, the server will now be deployed with a specific role.
Yeah, in this case it will be Jenkins setup.
See, YAML. All right, that's the node classifier. So now we deploy the VM. This isn't going to take long because I pre-recorded all of this.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of moving parts, and I can understand that at this point you're looking at it and going like, but once you have this set up, it becomes like a party. It's so much fun because now you can just add on little things and make it as complex as you want. See, there's a custom property.
Yeah. Machine build request.
And there we pick it up again.
This one.
So,
And now we can browse to Jenkins, I think.
request. There's an IP address. If everything works, and we go to that IP, there's a Jenkins server. See, I didn't install that Jenkins server. Puppet made that Jenkins server. So that's pretty cool. Now we have a Jenkins role. All right.
So,
Yeah, and as we discussed in the case number 2, that we need to apply standard configuration to already deployed machines and to newly deployed machines, it will be quite dangerous. A junior DevOps engineer will write a really wrong code, and it will be applied to everything else. So actually now we have to divide everything into different environments.
yep, that makes sense, right? Because now it's all very complicated.
And stuff. Thanks to R10K, if we just create a new branch, presto, we have a new environment. When you get more roles and more stuff, you don't want people to modify Puppet configuration in production. Can you imagine, like, you've got a new engineer coming in, he's like, oh, I'll just commit and push some of this stuff. And there goes your production environment, you know? So now you need different environments. So we deploy it, we added a new Git branch, we do R10K deploy, and look, production and test. Just like that. That was the easiest thing ever.
We do pretty the same steps within Vero. We just add Puppet environments in this case.
Yeah, we're going really fast because we already did this.
Yeah, so it's completely the same. So in this case, it can be added different parameters in CSRs. And just
Puppet role, Puppet environment. We're just adding this stuff in the same certificate. See,
Yeah,
installing
add
the Puppet
additional
agent,
commands.
environment equals. Boom, pink again. And environment, yeah, I gotta change that name. All right, Puppet role, Puppet environment. So now, whenever you need a new environment, all you have to do is just create a new branch on Git. And, you know, you can even give like say you've got this engineer, Timmy, I don't know, I like lining out my stuff, and he tends to push horrible code. You're like, okay, Timmy, you get your own branch, right? Go enjoy. And just commit as much as you want, push as much as you want, and then you can go like, okay, how is this? Does that even work? Let's see. Okay, so now we have, that was a YAML example for the external node classifier again. So there we go. We're just adding stuff. See, this is the easy bit. You just add stuff, And you've got more,
Just different parameter in this case, 12.
and that's it, you know? I mean, I know it looks complicated, but trust me, it's not. Most of this stuff is stolen from the internet. And I run it with a server name, server 12. Look, role, Jenkins setup, environment, test. Puppet agent -T on that new machine, and it right up there, see, it says, hey, test. So that works now. We have environments.
Yeah, we have to add the input from the user for the environment. And, well, it will be completely the same steps.
Same stuff. Just refresh. Boom.
Remove,
And there you get your Puppet role and your Puppet environment.
publish.
Easy. So now you can deploy to test or to production, whichever you want. Deploying a new one, see, test,
And Jenkins.
Jenkins, and there we go. Now we have different environments and different roles. All right, so
Yeah.
Last bit, like that guy I was talking about, that Timmy, the one that constantly keeps pushing horrible code to his own test branch or test environment, right? Now your day job is checking his code. That doesn't sound like a lot of fun. So what do? You create a pipeline that does at least some basic testing, right? Like, is this even Puppet code? Does it make any kind of sense? Right? So we deploy and configure a Jenkins server. Again, I just did that, right? And we trigger Jenkins build
on each commit. So I go to my Jenkins server, create a new job. Like I said, we're going fast. Check Puppet code. Okay, I'm going to show you a little bit of that whole GitLab Jenkins integration that Ronald was talking about earlier. But I'm actually going to, like, this is a webhook, right? So I'm like, okay, if you get something with a super awesome secret token, then you need to trigger. So I go to my integrations for my repository. I'm like, hey, secret token, super awesome secret token. That's going to be in the X GitLab token header. I'm like, okay, sure, check that header. If that's in there, you need to trigger. Also, I want a payload because I want to read stuff later on, like what branch is this, what, you know, who committed this, so you can put his name on Slack and shame him. There's the URL, so jenkins.lab.kagels.com, which is my, and the port. Nope.
Fight it till the end.
Add the webhook. All right, so 5 more minutes, but I'm halfway. No, I'm not. All right, so build step, real simple, execute shell. Basically what I'm doing is I'm taking what I got, the payload, right? Come on, man. And I'm going to run it through JQ so we can see what's going on real fast. I'm going to go back to GitLab. I'm going to go like, hey, do a push. This is just a test, not actually anything happening. Builds get triggered. Like, show me what that looks like. There's all that delicious, you know, JSON that we can use later on for all the cool stuff, which we're not going into, don't worry. Adding the Git repo. See, it's a whole mesh of stuff, like GitLab is triggering Jenkins, Jenkins is pulling GitLab. Like, okay, whenever this job gets run, I want you to do a Git pull on that Git repository. There's another job. I'm going to go to the console output. See, there's our code right there. So that worked. And now we're just going to do some basic testing. I'm not going to bore you with this. Like I said, all this stuff is going to be made available later on in the Git repository. That's at the last slide. And basically what it does is it does a little, okay, is it okay with parsing? Is it okay with linting? All that stuff. So this is my personal Slack, because I like Slack integrations. Doing a little test, pushing it. And if you notice up there, you can already kind of look.
Yeah.
See, hey, parsing is okay, linting sucks. You should really check your code style. So that worked. That's cool. So final test, because this is all like pushing the buttons, like, okay, give me a test. I want to see it actually work, right? So I'm changing code, modifying the README file, pushing it up there. That should trigger the job. We wait for a second, and it tells me, yep, parsing is fine, linting not so good, but you know, you can work on that. So, and here's the console output if you're interested in that stuff, because it, you know, like Ronald said, it keeps a history of that. So,
What happened? Buckle up, buckaroos, because there's a lot of stuff, but we only got 5 more minutes, so we're going to go through it really, really fast. Okay, this stuff you've seen, like before, the whole deployment through anything as a service.
Yep. But everything will go through the R10K GitLab. Everything is synced, so.
So that entire complicated stuff we managed to bring back to one spinning icon.
here's what happens with the roles and environments. You just saw that. We're not going to go too much into that, but this is it, you know, in a workflow setting, like lined out. The continuous integration, continuous delivery,
So developer to
GitLab,
Jenkins
Jenkins,
pools.
Slack. It's not really continuous delivery because we're not telling, you know, Jenkins to actually push from test to production, but we could if we wanted to. So, considerations.
Yeah, why we actually choose Puppet but not Chef, why GitLab but not Bitbucket, why Jenkins?
We use
and
Puppet
not-
instead of Ansible because we didn't want to
Anything
look
else?
too much like Ronald. That's it.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons actually.
No, we. Why?
But, well, all of this in bundle worked for us pretty good, so
Yeah.
we were happy to show this one to you, and you're really free to choose your own combinations, and please share it with us.
Yeah, if you do figure out something that's even cooler than this, please let us know.
By the way, this is the GitHub where all the stuff will be on later. Questions? Anyone? Whoa, got a bunch. You, sir.
In the past, I had some problems with removing a Puppet agent to get it done again and
Right.
automatically auto-enrollment of the circuit.
Yeah. With all due respect, I would not try to fix it that way. Using the whole kettle versus pets paradigm, I would just remove that VM and try again with a fresh one.
So you cannot force it to put it again.
It's
and then-
possible, but it's asking for a lot of trouble. I would get rid of the virtual machine and just make a new one. Yes, sir, in the back. I saw. Because I like writing my own code. That way I keep, you know, in charge of what's going on. Most of this stuff is all API driven. I like writing my own APIs. I understand that, you know, also I had a customer who didn't want to use the enterprise version of Puppet. And if you want to use the Puppet VRA plugin, you need Puppet Enterprise. And this is all open source. Anyone else? No? Then I thank you.
Yeah, thank you.